But let me introduce you to the Mayor of Montreal. Thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to working with you over the next year and to putting on a tremendous 10th Global Forum in the 375th anniversary of the City of Montreal. Thank you so much.
I better be good. All right. Well, one of the reasons why I'm here is because you're probably the only one who like potholes. So when I'm coming here, I say we'll have some solution. It's not the same thing with our citizen. So I'm here to find the solution. The reason why I'm coming here, of course, we just met 2 weeks ago, but we share the same vision of the importance of infrastructure. And frankly, there's 3 reasons why I'm here: leadership, infrastructure, and global. That's exactly the kind of things that we are pushing up together. I'm not only just the mayor of Montreal, I'm also the president of Metropolis, which is an organization worldwide where we represent all the metropolis cities who have more than 1 million inhabitants. So I just came back from Mexico City, and we are signing agreement, and guess what we've been talking about? We've been talking about infrastructure. We've been talking about infrastructure is kind of a vision, in a sense like Roosevelt in the past when he put up together that New Deal. For us, it's not an expense, it's an investment. It's about quality of life. It's about taking care of your people. It's about make sure that you have a better environment. So we, when he did, after the crash, you know what he's done, he invests big time in infrastructure. President Hilton did the same thing. And we've done the same thing in Canada. So when I just came as a mayor of Montreal, that was the first priority. So we will invest something like 18 billion Canadian dollars. So that's about what, 5 billion American now? But don't put that on tape. I'll be on YouTube now. I'm done. I'm toast. But seriously, I think that what we are planning to do, and with the Prime Minister, as you notice he's here in Washington right now, is to invest big time in 3 major topics. First of all, mobility, so everything regarding transport. Secondly, of course, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about environment, we're talking about sustainable development. So we are investing there big time, but also in a way where when we talk about transport mobility, so that's all part of it. And third, but it was for me as important as the other, is social infrastructure. Social infrastructure mean housing, mean urban planning. We put all that together. Well, we have a 10 years plan. So for the next 10 years, we will invest $18 billion from the budget of Montreal. But we've just had a big announcement from the government of Canada where they're saying that they will invest $125 billion with those 3 issues. You have the government of Quebec who's doing exactly the same thing. But the greatest things about what we are living now in Canada is that we're all connecting the dot together. We're all aligning ourselves together. So we're creating the proper environment for investment, where, of course, we are open for business, but we are looking for the best. And when we're talking about infrastructure, I saw some of the people who are represented who's here, we're talking also about smart city. We're talking about data. We're talking about quality of life, as I said, as I mentioned. So for me, that was important to come here to say that that great partnership with the institution, with the private sector, is important, and we can all make a big difference globally. And what I'm saying what am I saying today, from a Montreal perspective, is exactly the same thing all over the world. When we had COP21 in Paris, we had over 700 mayors who were not only put up together that declaration for the future of the sake of the planet, but we were talking about investment and talking about green infrastructure. We were talking about the think global, act local issue. And that's why it's so important to participate in those kind of events where we can not only share the best practices, but at the same time try to implement that vision for the future, that when we're talking about sewers, well, maybe not jazzy for a politician who likes to cut ribbons, but clearly it's a great investment for the next 10, 20, 30 years because it will have a major impact in people's life. Why? because in the next 20 years, you will have over 70% of the overall population will live in cities. We represent the cities 2% of the areas in the planet, but we have 80% of the overall GDP. And with all that people's movement, that will be important to talk about the basic, and the basic is infrastructure. And we need also to not only to work with the private sector, but put with us all those universities who can focus on the products itself. We were joking about the potholes, of course, but why do we have those kind of potholes? Well, first of all, we have climate change. Secondly, maybe we have lousy products. But thirdly, it's because in the past, and this is the same thing with every cities, we did poorly in the investment in infrastructure. So if we're not doing it now, it will have a major impact, not only politically, but for the sake of the citizen. And that's why every time I'm visiting cities, not only as president of Metropolis, well, of course, I like to visit some of the cities where there's a baseball team, because we'll get it back, don't worry about that. It's kind of funny because I had that meeting with the mayor from Mexico City, and there's some people talking about professional baseball in Mexico City too. So I said, okay, let's make a deal, we'll work together, but nevertheless. So don't worry, you will come back to Montreal, not only for convention, but for baseball too, but that's another story. But the kind of relationship, the vision, and the leadership that I witnessed myself with all those mayors is fantastic. And I think that for next year in Montreal, we should also have a panel of mayors. We should try to build up some MOUs with governments. Of course, you have the bid process and all that, but if we're talking about the process itself, if we're talking about the vision and how can we implement that kind of vision for the sake, because it's always the same taxpayer money, right? I think that would be a great opportunity for us to all sit together and develop those kind of MOU. I'm also president of the Greater Montreal area, which represents 4 million people, but it's 82 municipalities. And we need to make sure that we can all work together and define the kind of urban planning that we want to put forward. And from the last decade, we were able to put up that kind of plan. But it's not just to have a plan that's count. It's how can we not only protect our area, but invest in the proper way so we can make sure that we will be good for the next 20, 30, or 40 years. And that's why those kind of relationship that we have today, that kind of convention, forum, is important for us, because what I'm saying today, I mean, you heard that before. I didn't reinvent the wheel. But there is a difference now. There is a political will to all work together to make the system work. So my role as a mayor is to be a facilitator, is to cut up all the red tapes, is to make sure that we have one booth where we can know where to address. But at the same time, in return, we want to make sure that we have the best from the best and invest together for the future. We just mentioned Cuba. There is a new political reality that will provide some other opportunities. But you have some other countries who are living the same thing. Look what's going on in Africa. Look what's going on in Asia. You will have that kind of boom, that environment situation where there will demands to invest in those infrastructure. I went to Mexico City because we had a conference on Habitat 3. United Nations will gather in Quito in Ecuador in October, and they will talk about the future of urban planning. Guess what we spoke about? That's exactly it. So if we're all investing in the same way, if we are also having a plan where you put economic development, social development, and sustainable development, you will find the same link, and that link is infrastructure. So if you take that perspective, I think that we can all together put up not only a great MOU, but put an agenda for the next year. And together, we have a say, alone we go faster, but together we go farther. And that's exactly the kind of process that I'm intend to do. And that's the kind of message I wanted to do, to tell you. Of course, I learned that to be strong in politics, you need two things. You need to speak loud, but you need to be brief too, because the wine is passing and everybody wants to have fun. But if there's one message that I want you to get from me, is that infrastructure for us is the future. It is not an expense, it's an investment. And at several levels, all my colleagues from different level or order of government are pushing exactly the same thing. In Canada, we are living our own New Deal. And we believe that by investing, it's not an issue of deficit or not. It's a matter of making sure that we create, you judge a house with its foundation. And that kind of foundation is so important for the sake of our citizen, because the only reason why I'm there as a mayor is because I have the trust of the citizen. And that's the kind of role that I want to play. And every time that I will have an opportunity, I will repeat the same message. And I was pretty pleased and feel privileged to have Norman in my way 2 weeks ago. This is the kind of relationship we can all build up together and make a difference in people's lives. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for spending the money next year in Montreal. I feel great already about it. But let's all work together and make sure that we can have representatives from different mayors, and we'll organize a panel together next year. And en attendant, parce que vous avez remarqué, j'ai un accent, donc je suis un Montréalais francophone. Je ne peux pas venir dans quelques pays que ce soit sans dire quelques mots dans ma propre langue. Je vous remercie du plus profond de mon cœur et c'est toujours un honneur pour moi de participer à ce genre d'événement. So, j'espère que j'ai répondu à vos attentes. I hope that you're okay with what I've said. Doesn't matter. I'm done. Anyway, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mayor.